All, welcome back to Tickle Maths. If you're new here, we will be doing additional and modern mathematics of Form 4 and Form 5. Currently, we are looking at additional mathematics Form 4 Chapter 3 and we are going to finish today. So if you haven't checked out my previous videos, please do so that you will understand my method of teaching and also today's video. So today we are looking at quadratic inequalities. So far, quadratic inequalities, and so far we have been looking at the quadratic functions. And if you know what is quadratic functions is a function which has an unknown at most of the power 2. So if you look at a quadratic function, if the function has unknowns in it and the unknowns, check the unknown powers, and if the highest power of unknown is 2, that is called quadratic function. So far we have looked at sketching the graph. So we will today look at the inequalities. So you know that okay, we have two stuff to remember today. So first thing is the shape of the graph. I just want to recall we have two shapes, which is the smiley graph and also the sad curve or sad graph. And we obtain this curve when a is more than 0, which means a is positive. Then we if it's a good result, just take it as a result. So when you get a good result, you become happy, right? So this is called the happy emoji graph. And when you don't get a good result, you become sad, which is a negative. When a is less than 0, you will get a sad curve. Okay, and this curve is called minimum curve. Why? Because minimums are positioned lower, so low here, and maximum because maximum is positioned upper, which is a maximum. Okay, so this is the shape, and now we will look at the inequalities. So what is inequalities? This is the equal sign. Inequalities are, these are called inequalities. I don't know if you are familiar with this, but I will somehow let you know. So this is called less sign. So if you see here, we have an inequality here, which means if a is less than 0, so a have to be numbers which are less than 0, which means the negative numbers like -1, -2, -3, so on. And this is called more or greater. So here also there's an inequality where a is greater than 0, which means 1, 2, 3 other than 0. So when we add the equal, greater or equal sign, we actually get equal. Okay, when you add this one, this is called equal, which means if you, let's say we add uh, for example, b is less than equal to 0, which means you have to include the 0. Just think this as the equal sign modified. If you see double line here, a second line here, it means it's telling that you have to include the 0. So we will take values of 0 to 0 to negative, all the negative values. Okay, hopefully you guys understood what I'm trying to say. So then now we will look at two types of quadratic inequalities. I will draw the curve now. So we have two types of it. The first one is when this one happens, and the second type is when this one happens. Okay, what are this? So we are going to look at quadratic inequalities and solve in a while. But before we solve, I just want you guys to know that when you solve the inequality, if you get less than or equals to 0, when you solve, then this is going to be this graph here. And if it's equal or greater, then it's going to be this graph here. How to remember these graphs? So I will teach you one formula to remember this, which is treat these curves for just for this quadratic inequalities as a bowl of soup. Okay, this is a hint or tip. Just if you have a look, it does look like a bowl, right? Just treat these curves as like a bowl of soup. When the soup is less or equal, then uh, the soup remains in the bowl. When the soup is greater or equal, which means it already overflow, the soup come out from the bowl and it overflows. Okay, now we will have a look at example of question where this will be asked to be sketched. Then you will understand what I'm trying to say further. Okay, so the example that we are going to look at today is x squared minus 9x plus 20 less or equal to 0. Okay, now this is called a quadratic inequality. Why? Because it has the general form and also inequality has been involved. So this is a quadratic inequality. If you don't have this inequality sign, please don't draw this graph. This graph is specially for the inequality questions. So then now the first step of any equation is to solve, and we are going to use the factorization method. Before you use it, please remember you should make sure a is 1 or in a positive state. If it's not a positive, you have to times both sides with negative 1 to make this equation positive. And once you do that, we will have a look in a moment how this inequality is going to change. But the first rule is make sure the equation is positive. Okay, being positive is very important. So that is the first rule. And now you can solve it using factorization method. Again, if you're not familiar with factorization method yet, please have a look at my chapter 2 videos. I have clearly stated how to do this factorization method. So today I won't be teaching you how to do it. I will be only solving it and focusing on this part of the process. So when we factorize this, factorization means you're breaking this equation into two halves, and we know that we don't have any number in front, so you can simply put x here, and we know that this can be 4 times 5, 5 times 4, or 1 times 20, or 2 times 10. But if you have a look, we are getting 9, which is a possibility of 4 and 5. And look at the sign in front, it says a positive, which means it should be a positive number times a positive number, or negative number times a negative number. But again here it's a negative, so negative number has been involved, so it's simply like this. Okay, so now we know we have already split this into two parts. Now solve for x becomes 4, similarly x becomes 5, because it's the same type. Now we can draw the curve. Look at this. This is showing us that the soup is less, which means it's inside the bowl, contained inside the bowl. So it's going to be here 4 and 5. How? Okay, students might get confused. Why is it here 4 and why is it 5? So we know that the number line, if you know, number line is the line where it starts 0 here and the negative numbers are here and positive numbers are here. So always in the number line, if you have a look, it will be like 1 2 3. So similarly 4 and 5. So always the smallest number would be at the left hand side and the largest number would be on the right hand side. And mainly because this soup is contained inside the bowl, the x is also contained in between these numbers here. Okay, so yeah, that is one example. Now we will have a look at another example where the soup is not contained inside the bowl. So the second example is negative 3x squared plus 5x minus 2 less or equal to 0. So again, as I said, the first rule is to make sure the inequality is positive, and if you see or have a look, this inequality is not positive, which means you have to times your left hand side and the right hand side with negative 1 to make it positive. So it's going to be something like this. So negative 1 times 0 is again 0, and this whole thing will become positive. And if you open up the bracket, so if you don't understand the step, if you open up the bracket, negative 1 times negative 3x squared is going to be 3x squared. Negative 1 times 5x is going to be negative 5x. Negative 1 times negative 2 is going to be positive 2. And this part is going to be negative 1 times 0 is simply 0. If you don't know how to, if you feel like you tend to do a lot of careless mistake, please use your calculator when you open up the bracket, and you can do one by one, no harm in it. So when you times both side, or when you times both side with negative 1, you have to change the inequality. This is, hopefully you guys learned this in form 3 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is how it goes. So now we have already made this equation positive. Now we have to just solve it. And how to solve it? It's going to be simply factorization. We are going to open up the break this thing into 2, which is simply going to be 3x and x here. Why? Because the possibilities of getting 3x squared is 3 times 1 or 1 times x, 1 times 3. So you can write either way, okay? No particular order. And here we have 2, and which means you can express this 2 in 1 times 2 or 2 times 1. But again, think wisely, because we have 5 here, which means something times something minus something is 5. So we will get 2 here. So, and this is positive. So okay, again, if you don't understand what I'm what I'm trying to do here, no, yeah, this, you know what, okay, it should be, yeah, something like this. Again, if you don't understand how I'm factorizing, please go back and recheck the previous chapters video, so that you will understand how to factorize. Again, this is not something that you can watch and you can automatically understand. You have to practice a lot. Practice makes perfect. So then we have factorized, and then find the x value, which is simply going to be x is 2 over 3, x minus 1 is 0, x is 1. So now we can draw the bowl curve, our famous bowl curve, which is simply going to be soup is outside the bowl. So it's going to be flowing here because our inequality is this one here. Okay, so always write the smaller number on the left hand side, which is going to be 2 over 3, and bigger larger number on the right hand side, which is going to be 1. Because the soup is not contained inside the bowl, we won't be writing it, the x won't be in between the numbers, it's going to be outside. So it's going to be simply x is less or equal to 2 over 3, or x is greater or equals to 1. Why did I write in this way? Because if you have a look, or if you use your number line knowledge, you will understand that when we draw the number line, if this is 0 and this is negative and this is, let's say, 1, and we have 2 or 3 here, so we have shaded this part of the curve, okay, which means it's showing the values after the before the 2 over 3. And we know that before the 2 over 3 is the numbers which are less than 2 over 3, and so we write less or equal to 2 over 3. And we have shaded this part, which is showing the numbers after 1, which means after 1 is always going to be greater numbers, which are 2 and 3. So we have written greater or equal to 1. Okay, if you have any questions on this inequality, please let me know in the comment section so that I can teach you again. And yeah, always feel free to comment in the comment section. I can always teach you guys in a language where you're comfortable with, if you don't know in English. And also consider subscribing the channel for learning mathematics for free. This is a very golden opportunity, because at my time I did not have this facility. I used to pay for the tuitions, and when for the tuition you guys could really learn maths for free. So don't leave the opportunity, and do consider sharing with your friends to for them and help them with their maths too. And this is all. Chapter 3 is done. We will be doing chapter 4 tomorrow. And then that's all. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.